Terrible Things in Chinese Prisons Part 1. What's happening in Chinese prisons or in the so-called political re-education camps through transformation? What's happening with our Kazakhs in Chinese prisons or in political re-education camps? Let's just say about it a few words to people. Hello to everybody. To Kazakhs, my name is Serikжан Біләшұлы. My phone number and WhatsApp is 87470639031. We have been raising the Chinese Kazakhs issue for more than a year now. Undoubtedly, we have been constantly raising this issue since 2017-2018, when the Chinese Communist Party carried out genocide, racism, nationalism, chauvinism, and fascist discrimination against Kazakhs in China. What I want to say today is the condition of the Kazakhs in these Chinese prisons, so-called the political re-education camps, so-called advanced training schools, vocational training colleges, in other words, concentration camps or internment camps. How are the Kazakhs doing there? We talked with 20 people from Kazakhstan who had previously been released from these prisons, and Kazakh citizens and those who have the Chinese passport. At this time, we know that this political re-educational center is a prison, even worse than it is, because there are young student girls, there are big guys in it. For example, Mr. Ömerbek Begali, he is a citizen of the Republic of Kazakhstan who has sentenced to imprisonment in China for 8 months. And other citizens of Kazakhstan, including dozens of people who we talked with, as well as those who have the Chinese passports, Kazakhstan's green cards, residence permits, but here their parents and immediate relatives are citizens of the Republic of Kazakhstan. We have talked with those who were released from prison as a result of their complaints, applications, statements, those Chinese citizens. Then the kinds of punishment are terrible, very awful for the listener, and when those who have weak hearts listen to these stories, they lose their consciences immediately when they listen to it. We collected all that information and systematically recorded all of them. Now let's tell the people what's happening in the prisons in the so-called political re-education camps. All of this evidence and testimony if any journalists want to write about it. We have all evidence of these arguments in eyewitnesses. We are ready to publish it publicly. Firstly, they control people by psychological horrors. There is no reason to detain those people because of something was found on their phones, or they went to Kazakhstan and talk about a lot of things in Kazakhstan. Anything could be a reason. He handcuffed, his legs chained, and put a black bag on his head and took him away from his house violently. In that case, he was imprisoned without a court trial, and the detainees are in about 2 years. They don't know that they will be there forever, either 5 or 10 or 15 years. The burden of these people is much more psychological pressure than those who have been sentenced to 10 years in prison because they do not know anything about their destiny, worry, fear, intimidation, despair. All of this action is a destroyed dream, crushed, trampled, and exhausted for those who have been in prison for the past 6-12 months. We have seen jailed young men. Their bodies are destroyed, they are spiritually destroyed, and at least they need 1-2 years of psychological treatment to make them normal people. The worst thing in those prison and concentration camps is a large injection. It usually uses for bulls injection is on the right shoulder. Secondly, unknown drugs are given to prisoners forcibly. Nobody knows what kind of drugs they are, but there are 20 people who have been released from prison, including those who imprisoned for various reasons, but all of them are 100% innocent. The drugs damage the human brain. Here is clear evidence that 30-40-year-old former prisoners in Kulja, they released from prison only last year, when it was the easiest period of genocide. And they had been forced to drink the drugs for 3 months, and they were injected. Now they had sexual abnormalities. For half a year, lost their sexual abilities. They are medically checked, their sperms are all dead, their human souls are dead, and their abilities are absent. In Ili Prefecture, when such a situation happened, according to the Altai information, unmarried girls aged 25-30 married women after 1 month in the political re-education camp prison, their menstrual cycle stopped, and they didn't intend to have sexual contact with their husbands, and they were different after releasing from prison. They changed a lot. Until now, we have heard various types of physical punishments. A famous writer, a member of the Xinjiang Writers Society, a well-known Kazakh writer in China, an elder man, Mr. Davletbek Kenbak, had a speech at the first funeral for innocent people in China who were killed. The innocent people who were not buried properly in China, he said. Prisoners wear the same thing as ordinary helmets on their head. There is a small bell near their ears. It works with the battery. It rattles for 21 hours and don't let them sleep. This is a type of punishment. According to another world information, a prisoner come into a special room, handcuffed, legs chained, with hands and legs attached to the iron chairs. The wall is full of loudspeakers that have very high level decibel frequency. Noises are created intentionally. There are different types of noise harmful for central nervous system and heart. The elderly people, grandmothers and grandfathers with various illnesses who cannot even hold a walking stick have fell down a few hours later. Yesterday, on April 29, 2018, we went to East Kazakhstan region to raise this issue. The citizens of Kazakhstan who were released from prison told us that they were beaten, tortured, plunged into iron and hanged, thrown alone into concrete deep pits just like a well. During December frosts, ice water was poured over and didn't know how long it would be continued. In the rooms, the other people had to massage their bodies, suffered from frostbite until they could come to their senses. There are torture rooms, iron box where they put prisoners into a two-fold something like suitcases, their head and knees wrapped with adhesive tape and make them sit in a two-fold position. There are many kinds of horrors. Hearing this type of horrors, for example, pouring water in a cold room with air conditioning, to lay people's buttocks on the floor, to force to sit it on the ice, to hold them handcuffed, legs chained in the frozen artificial houses, to force to lie them to concrete floors, to sit to bend forward in a two-fold position by wrapping head and knees with the tape, to sit folding the whole waist and legs, putting in a two-fold into something like suitcases, ice water pouring into concrete pits from above. It's awful. All those people who were in those prisons say the same things. They had soups made from vegetable in the evening, like borscht, without any meat, and that borscht is full with lots of drugs, and the taste of the soups is like usual variety of terrible drugs. But it's unclear what kind of drugs they are. However, as we have seen so far, we noticed the speed of movement of people's eyes. The normal eyes must move faster, but former prisoners' eyes are like addict ones, or the same as a drunk man's eyes, and their eyes are barely moved. Secondly, when they begin to speak, they open their mouth and think much to say what they have just said, because they forgot what about. For example, they gave us 2 women's honors and honorary guards who are in the Chinese prison. They were whispering during breakfast when they went to the classroom, where had to listen to China Communist Party songs and propaganda. Both Mr. and Miss Ainur have no relatives in Kazakhstan, but they told they are citizens of Kazakhstan. One of them is divorced and the other one is unmarried, but they have forgotten their surnames. Now how you can search for them? Only the National Security Committee and the employees of the customs among Kazakhs in China can find out about Anar and Ainur there, who are in prison for 1 year, and they are in prison right now. All of you must figure out. Here are the horrors in the Chinese prisons. They were shown video clips that Kazakhstan is shuttering. They made to watch anti-Islam video clips. They were shown video clips of China's magnificence, made them memorize history and songs of the China Communist Party day and night. Sang the communists' red songs. They are pressured day and night, blackmailed them to tell about their relatives. They are threatened they will pass all their lives in such way, and they are frightened that even if China wants, they can occupy their country at any moment. And very many their spies are in Kazakhstan. If even they come back to Kazakhstan, if they open their mouths, their spies will kill them anywhere. In fact, it's not true. Our National Security Committee members are working with them now. But one thing is clear, brothers. Political re-education camps are prisons in China. The prisoners who were in prison in China for 5, 10 or 20 years previously say that 5, 10, 20-year prison in Kazakhstan is rather better than in China, as they can go out and work, read books, get information, receive newspapers, but there how many months and years are unknown. And the food is so poor. They cut the grandmother's hair, there are video cameras installed at bathhouse, even at toilet, and women asked to remove cameras at toilet at least, but the security officer said it's provided just for their safety only. And now, we all know and hear another horrors in other words, the violence against women, the physical, the shameful and the humiliating things that are happening to them. But when we hear the repression against the Kazakhs, we get upset. This is our first word on what is happening in the Chinese prisons, what's happening in Chinese political re-education camps through transformation. We will continue our talk in the future. We have delivered it to people at least 10 lectures. Since the evidence and arguments are in our hands, we don't say to frighten the people. It's terrible. I'm a citizen and experienced citizen. I'm over 40 years old. But when I hear such terrible things, my tears washed my eyes. Of course, I have anger very much. I knew my ancestors' history very well, and when I hear such stories how it was, I was bursting into not tears, but into blood. I stumbled, as if it fell down on both sides. I was crushed like a chalk, and afterwards I was resurrected like concrete stone. According to our foreign media and according to the information translated by Kazakhstan media, now in China there are 500,000 Kazakh detainees, and the above-mentioned prisons, so-called political re-education camps. My native Kazakhs think it's just education centers. It's not a prison or jail. I say it's just worse than a prison. People who release from it can never be normal people. It's happening my nation's biological genocide. As you know, after the discovery of the America by the Europeans, after the production of a variety of cigarettes, cocoa and other crops, they were able to transport the Africans, and then they transported the Chinese and other nations from Southeast Asia. But those Africans still have the same breed, but only 10 and 20% in America, and very rarely in each country. Why didn't the Africans grow up? In fact, there were 10 times more than the Europeans, as well as the Chinese were even more, 2-3 times than the Europeans. They carried out castration procedure for all Chinese men, but allowed the Africans to continue their marriage, to love children, but to a reasonable extent. That's why millions of Chinese people who went to America didn't have any generation currently. They were castrated. That's genocide, as well as Hitler's Germany, who had burned 6 million Jews in the blast furnaces, made soaps from their bones, as it's the cursed fascist Chinese regime. The China Communist Party regime, the genocide of 3 million Kazakhs in China. As national product is the Kazakhstan national product, we find it enjoying to use such soaps. Wake up, my Kazakhs. I'm not saying that it's a rocket attack against China. I say just stand up. You must know that the horrors are being done to the Kazakh people, every Kazakh. Open your eyes. It's not just a 3 million people's genocide committed by China, but China's purpose is Kazakhstan, who until now said that their territory extended until Balkhash Lake. They have already made the way to occupation of Kazakhstan. You can hear and see it from our lectures called Chinese Soft Power. How China Conquer on YouTube channel. I have mentioned this issue on a regular basis. Awake, Kazakhs. The most difficult days for the Kazakh people in 2017 and 2018 have come. At this time, when the national situation is the most severe, there are two different people, my dear Kazakhs. One are those who struggle for the benefit of the nation, the other are traitors. Those who are silent abstainers and neutral persons are all of those who are traitors. Awake, Allah's son. My name is Serikjan Bilashuli. My phone number and WhatsApp is 8747063931. This lecture will be continued in the future. We are every Kazakh is the only Kazakh. The Kazakh problems are my problems too. We are neighboring with Russia and China. We are Kazakhs who live in the middle of them. We love peace. We are just informers about the Kazakh people who are innocent and no reason evidence victimized by China.